Hi there. In a recent video, I had a viewer leave a comment and say how they really enjoyed and liked the footsteps that I had created for one of the characters. And they asked if I could make a video showing how I designed that footstep. Now, I don't remember exactly how to design that one specific footstep, but what I'd like to show you is my approach to how I went about creating a lot of these different kinds of robotic mechanical footsteps and how I process them and all that stuff so that you can go ahead and experiment and design those for yourself. So with that said, let's get into our project so I can show you exactly how I did those. All right, so here we are inside of Reaper, and this is actually a session I had from when I was designing my steampunk mech sound effect pack. And so I'm going to just show you the process that I went about to creating these footsteps. And the footsteps are actually from that sound pack. So if you're ever interested in checking it out, I'll leave a link in the description below. But yeah, so what I did is when I got started, I like to start from scratch. I like to record all my own sound sources. So when I do that, I like to think about different categories and different layers that I'm going to use to create a certain sound. So for these sounds, I had metal and gadget sound effects. So if we look here, I actually used NVK Create. And if I bring it over, you don't see the previous settings that I had, but basically what I typed in here were metal or gadget. And I had chosen only the folder that I have my steampunk mech sound effects sounds in there, so that I'm only using those fresh sounds, those sounds that I recorded and designed specifically for that sound pack, right? And from those sounds, I can show you the folder here. So here you can see this is one example of my metal folders that I had. This is a metal hits and drops folder. So if we play a few of these here. Right, you can hear different metal pieces and things like that. So these are the kinds of sounds that I had. And then, of course, I also had a designed metal folder. So these were all like raw pieces of metals that I had. And once I have a whole bunch of these, then what I like to do is either layer them like this or process them in different ways until I get some design parts and pieces that I think I could use for my sound pack. And this is what this folder here is. These are just designed metal sounds that I had created. Right, so they're a bit processed, but they're all taken from these raw recordings that I had. Right, so now what I'm doing here is I'm searching through all of my files, all the raw recordings, all of my design recordings to pick from these sound files, the metals as well as gadgets. So I didn't show you gadgets, but it's basically the same idea here. So, that's how I line these up. Now I use NVK Create to randomly layer things together, and I'll just show you an example of a sound here that it just came out, and I didn't change it much, but here it is. So something like that could be a footstep sound effect if you want it to be. Let's just play each layer here so you have an idea of what I'm using here. Right, so you have a servo type of sound or something like that. Little metal hit. Small gadget. And more, a heavier metal clunk. Right, and I actually add processing to my effects whenever I'm layering with NVK Create here. One of the things I like to do is I like to put effects on to hear kind of what it's going to sound like as I'm processing, as they're being layered together, so that they sound more organic and more unified. So let's go over to some of these effects here that I have. So I'm just going to take everything off. So if we listen to just the raw sounds by themselves, right, it sounds completely different. And let's go over all of the stuff that I added on here. So I added a little radiator. Adds a bit of saturation. It's very subtle. This one is pretty big. This is subsynth, and here I'm adding some sub, and this is what is adding weight to the sound. That's what makes it, in my opinion, feel more like a footsteps, because it feels heavier. Right, you start to feel that bottom end a lot more. Then here I just added some uber loud, just again boost the lows a little bit more. Recenter just to keep everything together, because sometimes I feel like some of the sounds get panned a little bit weird or something. Anyways, I just want to make sure everything's centered, so I keep that on there. After that, I was playing around. I'm going to just turn on the limiter here, because as soon as I add Enforcer, it's going to get a bit too loud. It's already kind of peaking a little bit. Enforcer here, I just wanted to add a little bit more weight to the sound. So I was playing around with two different patches here. So here's one. And then I had this other one here. So one's hitting twice, so you get two kind of sub kicks, and then one's just hitting once, and they're a little bit different. But anyways, just to add different character to the sound. So that's how I'm processing them here, and then that's how I get the sound. Now, if you look here, I kind of put out a lot of different sounds. I probably have like 20, 30 in here, and you can see here I had other sounds that I thought could work, like that one, maybe for a different kind of robot, or this one here. right? So it just depends on the character and the qualities that you want out of a sound effect. Now, another thing that I also like to do is sometimes there's certain layers that I think could benefit from having additional sounds or processing on them. So, for example, here I had this one that I turned off. I haven't turned it on yet, but I had a bit of processing on here, and this is Ubic. And basically, it's a granular effect. And I don't even have the full version. This is just a trial version just to try it out. But let's have a listen to what it's doing to the sound. So without it, it sounds like this. And with it. And you can see here, I'm manipulating the offset, and I'm doing that with Reaper's parameter modulation, and I'm actually using the audio control signal. So what that means is that the signal of the sound here, so this sound signal is triggering and affecting the movement of this parameter. So if we play it again, right? So suddenly you get this nice shifting in grains, and it just sounds a lot more sci-fi-esque, I guess, if you will. So I had that on there. So if we play it now, right? It sounds a little bit more high-tech, if you will. I also add a little flanger. And I also try to add it as well on this sub-layer. So if we play it now, right, you can get some different tones or characteristics out of it. You lose a bit of the bass and the body of the sound, so it might not be what you want. But this is the idea. This is how I went about creating these footstep sound effects. Now, if you want to take it a little step further, pun intended, I'm just going to drag and drop these all the way at the end here. Now, sometimes what I like to do, you can already see I've done it here for a different sound here, but I'll have these here. And what I like to do is just drag these out, because sometimes these are good on their own, but actually they might even be better with different layers or different sounds. So what I like to do is experiment. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pull up LKC Variator, and I like this preset that I have here. It's just basically going to change up the pan a little. Well, the pan. I don't really need the pan to change much. The pitch, tape stretch, the rate, and the position. So how the files line up, and then as well, I might have a new file come into play. So I'm just going to hit this and mutate, and then now I should have a different footsteps. So it's a little bit different than my original. Now, actually, what I like to do is I like to keep this as my original so I don't lose it, and then I'll actually manipulate this one. So that didn't work very well. So that's a little bit different. That's good. Let's try a different one. So that one's okay. Again, you lose the body of that sound, so might have to redo it or layer it again. Right, but just doing it this way, now I can get a lot of different variations really easily, which is great. But also I can experiment with trying out different sounds or different layering different things together. All right, so I hope you found that useful and valuable, and you'll go and experiment yourself with some of these techniques and some of these sounds, and just layering and processing them together. If you like this video and you made it all the way through to the end, I think there's another video you are gonna like. It's one where I basically walk through how I created a steampunk ambience sound effect from scratch, and I just go over exactly how I made that. So I'll have that on the screen here. And if you have any comments, questions, leave it down below. I think that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. See you in the next video. Bye.